Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to your latest education update webcast from BT. Today I want to talk about quite a few exciting propositions, and predominantly over the last 18 months we've talked a lot about enhancing those learning outcomes for education. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Sean Gardner from Tute, who's actually going to take us through that proposition. But first I just want to step back a little bit and put back into context the reason why I've invited Sean along today to talk us through the actual proposition and what it could actually mean to you guys. About 12 months ago, we invited Paul Pope on the actual couch, and we talked about Tute and some of the developments in the actual propositions and how we can actually focus on the outputs and outcomes of learning. And that's really looking at the student engagement and the student experience. And certainly on the student experience side and also the parental engagement, Tute absolutely plays into that. And obviously this year now we have education in our Schedule 5, so in terms of the targeting, we really need to focus in on the campaign activity across the schools and colleges, and hopefully what you'll actually hear today from Sean and myself around the BT Tute proposition is a unique opportunity for you to engage differently in your schools and really start to make a difference. So Sean, welcome to BT.
Thank you.
I suppose the first question we need to ask is, who and what is Tute?
So Tute is an online learning or teaching platform. It's, if you imagine a mashup of Skype and Facebook.
Right.
So it has a central interactive whiteboard, which you've seen in schools, a chat board, video, voice, so the children can speak to you, listen to you through headphones, microphone. And generally it's a very immersive learning environment for kids.
A online lesson?
Yeah, essentially. So we have a virtual school in Wales. We have 60 teachers covering all subject areas. We're just recruiting another 40, so there'll be about 100 of them. So it gives you an idea of the growth we're seeing. And basically, they sit in front of a PC in our offices with a headset and a scratch board, and they upload the lesson and deliver the lesson to children in ICT suites in schools, or perhaps in the school library, or even from home.
I suppose one of the questions the guys will be thinking out there in our local business teams and everything else is, does it only work for certain types of schools? Is it for schools, academies, colleges? Where can we actually look at infiltrating and putting this proposition together? Okay,
so it's pretty universal. So if you think of a typical school, let's say a secondary school, it might have 1,200 pupils. Of those 1,200, about 800 will go through the sausage machine and they'll come out the other end without really any need for intervention or assistance. But you have a couple of hundred at either end, if you think of them as bookends. So a gifted and talented cohort that need enrichment, and maybe a bunch that just aren't doing as well as they could in literacy and numeracy mostly. So we tend to get involved in the bits where the school perhaps isn't as well oiled. Right. So we go in and supplement the teaching for children that need something a bit more advanced, and we go in, and deliver small short courses to groups to help them improve on their literacy and numeracy.
So in terms of a need, is it all around intervention, enrichment? Because we've spoke about a lot about that over the last few months.
Mostly, but it's not universally that. I mean, for example, we're working with a school in the northeast where we're literally replacing half of their maths department because they can't find good maths teachers. So the beauty of what we do is it can basically fill gaps for schools.
So it's been quite ad hoc, bespoke to what a school actually needs, rather than a sort of canned lesson environment.
Yeah, very much. So it's live teaching. I mean, the teachers that we have all worked in schools for many years. They understand how it happens, what needs to be done. And they go in and basically talk with the heads of departments. So our head of English would talk to the head of English in the school, and they would literally agree what needs doing. We'd build the course and deliver it. And, we'd be measured along the way and have dialogue with the school along the way to make sure we're doing our job.
So, Sean, what's the sort of best engagement strategy for our guys to actually utilise with the schools then?
Well, I think predominantly the leadership team in the school, the head or the deputy head, are the best guys to talk to because they understand where the issues lie. And really it's just trying to understand where there are gaps that need filling, because pretty much most of those gaps are things that Tute can do, because we have teachers, we understand the sort of ecosystem within a school, and we can tailor things pretty much to what they need within about a week's notice.
Now, you're known as a software as a service, if you like, in the cloud. Do the schools need any particular type of equipment to run your application? What do they need in terms of a setup?
So, really straightforward. They need broadband -- lease line capability.
From BT?
So, yeah, absolutely, well, naturally. And they need a headset so that they can hear and talk to the teacher.
Yes.
So that they can also engage using the interactive elements of the whiteboard, and also they need a browser with internet access and flash. It's nothing more complex than that.
So with it being a browser and the simple access, I'm presuming then it can be utilised anywhere, in any environment?
Yeah.
So is there scope sort of after school, preschool, that kind of thing?
Exactly. So what we're finding is that schools are using us to extend the school day. So if you think about the pressure cooker that's a school, they've got so much change going on that's being forced on them by government, new curriculums, new measurements, new ways of teaching, new methods. You know, the list is endless. So what we tend to do is try and extend the school day. So we'll start perhaps at 8:30 or even 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll deliver lessons up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening time. Sometimes also at weekends, sometimes also in school holidays, and sometimes through summer schools to help transition between primary and secondary. So we're pretty much 24/7 really.
And what subject areas? Is it a very defined list, or is it open to what the school actually needs?
It's as diverse as the curriculum. So we do English, maths, all of the sciences, all languages, geography, physics, sociology. You can have Mandarin and Latin if you want them. So
fantastic. And is that primary focused, secondary focused in terms of the GCSEs then, or what's the take-up of sort of secondary to primary?
It's pretty much all levels. I mean, we tend to mostly be brought in primary at years 5 and 6 when they're starting to worry about the transition away from primary to secondary. And then it's very much for literacy, numeracy, but also for languages and computing now, because that's a new thing on the curriculum. And then as you get into secondary schools, it's at every level really. You know, we're helping those that start at secondary that perhaps aren't doing so well to get better at what they need to do. We support gifted and talented right the way through the whole period of their school career. And then obviously as you get to GCSEs, well, the pressure's on. So, you know, we get used quite actively to support children who are either shooting for an A star and just need that little bit of a push, or those that perhaps are CD borderline and just need to be nudged across the line.
Fantastic. Now, over the last couple of months, we've seen the latest PISA report come out talking about the use of tutoring out in the Far East, out in China and Malaysia and Thailand, etc. But what I'm really interested in from my personal perspective as well is the parental engagement. So how does this help drive the parents coming in and assisting the school in driving those attainment results and getting better results for their children?
Yeah, there's two elements to that really. I mean, firstly, schools are paying for our lessons to be taught from home. So part of that's extending the school day piece is to, you know, get children learning at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
So it could even be a piece of homework?
Yeah, it
Take
could
a lesson as a piece of homework?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's great from the parents' perspective, it's the first time you get to see your children learn. I mean, learning happens behind school doors, they're closed. You don't get to see that epiphany moment when, you know, little Johnny suddenly goes, oh, I've got it, you know. And it's magical. And to see it, you know, you start to understand a little bit more about what goes on in a school. And once you understand that, you want to become more involved. And as you become more involved, you might want to support your child over and above what the school themselves are doing. And the beauty about the Tute platform is you can do that relatively cost effectively. So rather than paying 40 or 50 pounds an hour to have a tutor come in who you don't know, you can put your child on a group lesson. It's what they're used to doing anyway, and it's 10 quid a place. Really straightforward.
I was going to ask about the pricing, so it's quite straightforward in terms of the structure that we have, the cost of piece there?
Yeah. So the lessons start broadly. If you think that they're small group lessons, that's the beauty. That's why it makes it so effective. You know, you have a fixed cost of about £75 a lesson.
Yes.
But you can have 12 children on that lesson, so it's about £6 a head.
Right.
You know, and children actually learn better together. You know, we encourage them to collaborate. So, you know, if you and I were on a lesson, God forbid it was maths, you know, I'd be asked by the teacher to critique your answer. And I'm sure I could find something wrong, but, you know, you'd be doing the same to me. In that way, it's not just the teacher that's imparting learning, the kids are collaborating themselves or enjoying the lesson more, because, you know, it's about engagement.
So in the same way, then you can do one-to-many. I'm presuming you can do one-to-one if that's a requirement. So there may be a special case within a school whereby a student might be disruptive in a classroom. Actually bring him into this environment, it's all nice and secure, it's recordable, etc. So there's benefits on the one-to-one side as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's probably quite specific examples of where that would be used. I mean, medically excluded children, you know, so they can't attend school due to illness. Those, as you say, that have got behavioural difficulties, those who perhaps are in local authority care and are being moved around a bit, at least their learning can go with them.
Yes.
You know, they can learn from home, they can learn through a sort of tablet-type device. So
in terms of when we engage with the school, look at what their strategy is about the actual learning, we pick out in terms of where we think we can make significant improvements by looking at Tute. What is the best sort of engagement strategy for our LB guys out there to actually focus in on? Is it looking purely at the exam results and the GCSE, or would you say you need to take it back a little bit further than that?
I'd take it back further. I mean, the schools will know where their gaps are because they'll be worried about them because they are so, well, not punished, but
yes,
sort of reviewed regularly
and
by
measured
Ofsted
against.
and measured and all that good stuff. You know, all the targets that they have to constantly achieve. So they're on their numbers. And when you talk to them, they'll know where their issues lie and they'll know where they have weak teaching.
So how do we measure that success then? So we go into a school, make a real impact with a series of lessons.
Yeah.
How do we show the school that we've made an impact? And importantly, how do we drive case studies out of that to show other schools in terms of the impact we've made?
Okay, good question. So first thing we'll do is pre-assess. So if you give me a cohort of 12 children that need literacy intervention, we'll put them on an assessment that shows us exactly where they are. And that does two things. It gives us a starting point. So when we finish the course, we can do the same exercise and show how those children have improved. So that's your attainment gain. But it also means we can target our teaching to the individual children and make sure that the intervention is doing the job it needs to do. So once we know where the issues lie, we can go about fixing them. It's pretty straightforward.
And probably coming into the last couple of questions now, today, Sean, is how many schools out there using Tute, how many pupils do you have using the platform, and what's your sort of trajectory model with BT as far as how we can take this forward?
Okay, so without BT's help so far we're in a few hundred schools, both primary and secondary, and we've just last month taught our 100,000th pupil. So it's been
Fantastic.
A fairly steady and if not rapid growth curve. With you guys, well, world's the oyster, isn't it? I mean, the reach you have is fantastic. I think the proposition we have is of its time.
Yes.
You know, schools need what we're doing and will welcome the conversation. You know, they can feel threatened at times because, you know, the initial reaction is, oh, you know, we're going to be replaced by this electronic teaching. That's not the reality. You know, the reality is schools cannot cope with the pace of change and they need to be introducing new ways of teaching because some children just can't, you know, feel comfortable in a classroom environment. They might be shy. They just don't want to hold their hands up. You know, there could be a myriad of reasons why they don't engage. You put them on a PC and suddenly, you know, the behaviour changes, and that's really, you know, the opportunity that we have using your technology capabilities, your network reach, and our infrastructure.
So it's all supplementary.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get rid of teachers. We're not trying to shove them all virtual, but it's supplementary in all those different aspects that we just talked about.
Yeah, and it also starts to grow, you know, broadband usage within the school. You know, the more we can get children doing this as a part of the curriculum. I mean, in the States, it's about 40% of all teaching is online.
Right.
You know, it's a fraction here.
Yes.
So we can drive the behavioural change. You know, it's good for both of us. We get more customers, you get more broadband usage. So it's a win-win.
Sean, thank you very much for your time. Guys, we've heard from Sean there detailing a lot more about the actual proposition, what Tute can actually offer us and BT Tute going forward. And I think I'll probably just leave you with this scenario. A couple of weeks ago, we were actually at the education show, myself and Sean, and we had a student come along who was not engaging in school, really disruptive, and the actual teacher came along and sort of pre-warned us about the impact that this child could actually make on the actual stand. The actual child sat in front of a laptop with the webcam, with the headphones, as Sean rightly said, and actually really engaged with the actual student online in a virtual way, to the point whereby the teachers were actually astounded that this student was actually keeping his focus, to the point as well that he was actually shooing away people that were trying to disturb him as a natural thing, because he just really wanted to get that lesson done. And I think the second part as well is, in the last couple of weeks, we've held a number of enterprise days at our Dassel Park facility for a number of schools. And one of the schools up there, we gave them a challenge of looking at how technology would advance education in the future, what they would actually think what they'd want it to be, what do they want education to look like using applications on an iPad, technology as a whole, and ICT. And amazing, they came up with an application called Teach You Tech, which was basically BT Tute, which was absolutely fantastic. So we know the time is right now, not only from a student perspective, from a school perspective as well, because they need that, as Sean rightly says, with reference to the measurements that Ofsted put on them in terms of the attainment about GCSE results, but also parents who actually need this. You know, we look at the PISA report coming out from the Far East in terms of the number of children out there having private tuition. This is only going to exponentially grow over the next few years, and we've got some serious targeting to talk about now in terms of where we go forward. But guys, this morning I wanted to give you a real opportunity to understand more about BT Tute. So what we're going to do now is follow this up up with more details, more presentation packs out to you, and all the commission details for VMDs and everything else. But it's a fantastic opportunity for you guys to go out there now and talk about enhancing those learning outcomes. We've talked about it and I've been going on about it for quite some time now, but we have a real opportunity here to make some real material impact in terms of the curriculum, but it drives back then because using the BT Tute platform, you're using Wi-Fi, you're using the data, you're using the bandwidth, you're using the actual devices. So we can look at integration then into our BT Net portfolio, into our data portfolio, fibre, broadband, fibre to the premise. We can look at it in terms of Wi-Fi capability in schools because they actually need it. We can look at it in terms of broadbands at home because the consumers will need it, the parents will need the broadband access as well. And importantly, it really shows that we have that end-to-end facility now for schools across the country to really engage with and have something materially different than what our competitors do. It's not just about providing the solution, it's about what we actually do with the solution and how we impact on those outcomes and outputs. So guys, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I'll look forward to speaking to you again shortly, but as ever, any questions, please feel free to fire them through to myself or one of the actual team. Many thanks for your time.